outpacing the F-35A in the simplest sense. They were surviving by using the
I was like a homeless journalist traveling around. I have SIM cards from like 25 different countries here. I was going to follow some refugees back into Syria, and I was going to write about the adverse conditions in the camps. And I thought, I'll write a lovely piece for the Republic, and my journalism career will prosper. And then, without really thinking about it, I stood up and walked down and went to meet the people who kidnapped me at the hotel. They brought me into a room like this. 3 of them sat down. They said, why don't you do an interview with this guy here? One guy kicked me really hard in the face. And they're all stamping on me and kicking on me. Put on the handcuffs. They cuffed me behind my back like this. And they said, you're our prisoner now. Out there is the sun. This is the last time you'll see the sun. Do you understand? I said, yes. And then they ordered takeaway chicken and brought it in and had lunch.
I called the FBI and I said, my son's missing in Syria. And the guy said, that's a dangerous place. I didn't ask him to go there. What do you expect me to do?
They brought me down to the room of death. The 2 kids are on either side of me. One of them whispered, goes, we kill you. We kill you now. Allahu Akbar! This place was clearly under attack, and there'd be people down the hall being tortured. I was 200 days in this cell. I had to sleep diagonally like this. The guards, I was dependent on them for the air that I breathed. They're just young men. There's tons of food and guns and people to torture. I mean, most of them are having fun. There's a lot of fun in the jihad. It's very underrated in the West. Some of the guards stopped coming to my jail cell. I would ask, and they would say, he's been martyred. Who killed him? Oh, Islamic State. I was interested in the grievances. It was balm for hurt minds. It soothed the poison out of them. It calmed them down. You know, and you try to remind yourself, I'm still alive, I'm still alive. I rescued something from the disaster of 2 years, and it was this story.
And a good evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you. We're so grateful to have you tonight. And man, oh man, oh man, oh man, we are grateful to have the one and only Theo Padnos back with us. And Theo Who Lived. That is the title of that documentary you just heard about. And he's the author of several books, Padnos.com. Buddy, I cannot tell you, I was telling you before the show came on tonight, we're so grateful to have you. You have been one of those guests that have stuck in my mind through the years that we have... we've not been able to get you back on sooner. A lot of it's me, just scheduling and stuff. But it's so good to see you tonight. Welcome back to the McFiles. The world's changed since we saw each other last.
The world has changed.
Frank with you, I mean, what you just...
Well, listen, the world has changed, but your good-heartedness has not changed, and your warmth and kindness and openness to talk to anybody. I mean, even me. I think it's a great thing.
Well, I appreciate that. And listen, there's a lot of people tonight that have heard your story. There's some that haven't, and I want you to just take a few minutes because I was reading your bio today, sure. and I didn't realize this. I knew this, as you know some things subconsciously, but you have to be reminded of them when you read them. But you were in captivity for 2 years by Al Qaeda in Syria. You'd been over there to document. You're a journalist, and but they kept you captive longer than any journalist has been held captive and survived. It was almost 2 years, correct? That's how long you were taken captive.
That's right. I mean, they killed everybody else is what happened. That's why the movie is called Theo Who Lived, because the other ones didn't live. And
wow.
I was, I mean, it was a frightening situation. And what can I tell you? Should I, I'll update your audience.
Update your audience. Tell us what happened.
So they have a sense of what's going on here. Okay. So in 2012, I was at a career loose ends. I wasn't having a lot of success as a journalist. And I kept writing to all these minor publications. We published this article about Syria. We published that article. And they would write back one line rejections. No, go away. And I was in Antakya, Syria at the time, and looking around at the characters who were floating through there. Most of the young men that I was seeing were fighters on behalf of the rebels against Bashar al-Assad. And many of them had come in from Libya or Iraq or Texas to fight on behalf of the basically on behalf of the Islamic rebellion, which was growing in strength and power. It didn't really have a name at the time. There was some rumors of Al Qaeda being present, some rumors of an Islamic State, but nothing really firm. And when I crossed over the border, boy, did I discover that in fact there was something like a functioning Islamic State already. It had different flags, it had a bunch of leaders, but if you looked improperly at a girl on the street, they would hang you from your feet by the pipes in a basement.
Wow.
By the pipes beneath the ceiling in a basement. If they were applying Islamic law to everyday transactions in the street. If they felt somebody had been cheated, they would consult the Quran and they would say, okay, it's time to cut off your hand. So anyway, these people, I met up with some in Turkey. I made friends with some young men who said they would take me on a tour, like a journalism tour. They would drive me around and I could do some interviews. And as soon as we crossed the border, we slept in an abandoned house, and the next morning they announced to me that they were from the Al Qaeda organization and that I was their prisoner. And they needed, in order not to kill me, they needed a quarter kilo of gold. They said, which was the amount of ransom that the Quran says they are allowed to have. So they're like, do you not know that the Quran says that we're entitled to this? You're our prisoner, and this is what God says you are entitled to. No, it says we are entitled to. So do you think you can come up with this quarter kilo of gold? And I'm like, look, I'll try. Please don't kill me. And they go, okay, you have a week. Well, that night, these people were so stupid that I escaped from them. They handcuffed me during the night to one of them, and as he was sleeping, I wriggled out of the handcuffs and ran away.
Wow!
But I ran away to the rebels that we were supporting, and the U.S. government was sending money to these people, so that because we were for the rebels in Syria and against the government, which was run by Bashar al-Assad at the time. Anyway, I ran to the rebels to whom we were sending money and guns. And I said, listen, I'm an American. I've been kidnapped. They took my passport. They took my shoes. They took all my money, which wasn't very much. But can you please help me? And they said, sure, no problem. Just take a seat. And we're going to sort out this situation. And we'll probably reunite you with your passport and your clothing. To make a long story short, they brought me to the Islamic court. The judge goes, you're a spy, you're a CIA agent, and we condemn you basically to death. And so he gave me back to the kidnappers.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of 2 years of an adventure through the prison system of the Al Qaeda organization, who is now running the entire nation of Syria.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, yeah.
Well, Theo, let me ask you this.
That's the short story.
This was 2012, so this was during the Obama years,
Right.
and you say that we were supporting
Right.
the rebels that were rebelling. Now, Bashar al-Assad, was he?
Yeah.
I hate to say this. I hate to be naive. I know there's no good guys, bad guys in the Middle East. Pretty much, it's all bad. It's just the level of bad. It's just sort of the flavor of bad. But you got thrown. The captors that you thought were your friends sent you back to the Al Qaeda people that were the ones threatening you, and had killed your friends and killed the people in the jail cell. Correct?
I mean, what was happening? I was apprehended by four young men who were freelance wannabe terrorists. They really weren't employed by any actual terrorist organization. But once I escaped from them, I went to an actual rebel group that was funded by, that did have some funding. We don't know exactly from where, but let's say from U.S. allied countries. And those people had a fair amount of weapons and vehicles, and they were getting some. Anyway, these people turned me over to the Islamic court, and they were angry at the U.S. for what we did in Iraq. So all the anger and resentment and fear of the U.S. military, they took that out. They took those feelings of hostility out on me.
Wow.
And that's why they got me, not because of who I was, but because they thought I represented, America, CIA, our interventions in Iraq and elsewhere in the Islamic world. And they wanted to send a message through me back to the U.S. public saying, don't come here because we're going to kill you. We're going to mess you up bad if you do.
Was this before Daniel Pearl or after?
It was after Daniel Pearl, but believe me, Daniel Pearl was in my mind.
I bet it was.
It was also before James Foley.
So
It was
James
before
Foley's
James Foley, but
right.
James Foley was kidnapped like in the same town that I was kidnapped in, the same little village, but a month later. And I didn't know this. I didn't know what was going on, but in fact, they were rounding up Americans, and they did. They really like all the lower down people wanted to cut off our heads right away, but
Wow.
only the topmost people were. They were like, they knew that we were that they could get money for us, so they're like, don't kill him because we're gonna ransom him away, and eventually that's what happened.
Okay. Let me ask you this. You mentioned the torture. A lot of this was psychological. They probably considered you an asset, as you said. You were more valuable to them alive, but they made you
Mhm.
think probably many times that you were not going to make out alive. Because I
Mhm.
was
Right.
reading it even tonight, and even watching that little 2 minute clip again. They would put the noose around your neck many times. You'd have to sleep diagonal in a
Mhm.
cell. You said that you literally had to depend on the air you breathed based upon whether they let you go. I got to ask you a blunt question.
Well,
Go ahead. Go ahead and answer that
yeah.
before I answer my
Well, I
question.
think you're a religious person, and you are interested in spiritual experience. And I think you would be interested in what they do to their prisoners, because their whole goal, the reason why the torture and why they isolate you, is to bring you around to their way of seeing God, and to become more like them, and to orient you spiritually and physically as they are. So that they follow the lunar calendar. They pray 5 times a day, and the movements of the celestial bodies are very important to them. They align their whole prayer schedule based on the setting of the sun, the rising of the moon, and they want you to be in the same like frame of mind. And they knew that I was not,
Right.
but they have a good way of bringing you around to that way of being. And the first thing they have to do is to kill the person that you used to be. And they want that person. I was Theo when I went over there. Theo, a journalist, and they didn't like that person. They wanted that person to die spiritually and psychologically, and they succeeded in killing that person off, because a year and a half later, I didn't want to be Theo anymore. Like, under their control, I would have been happy if they had given me. No, they did give me an Islamic name. Um, oh no, sorry, they didn't give me an Islamic name. They gave me a name that there's a category of person in an Islamic state that is not going to be killed. He's not an equal citizen. He's less than. He could be a Christian. Um, he has to pay taxes. He maybe has to he has to bow his head in the presence of the Muslims, because he's not equal. They think he's wrong. However, they would have allowed me to be that person, and boy, I would have been happy to be that person. Why? Because it was life, and I wanted to live. So their option that was before me is like, you can live as a second class citizen, sort of under their boot heels. And I was like, please, I want that. So that was the psychology that
I got you.
I was in.
That's deep.
Mhm.
Let me ask you this: would you have ever dreamed? That's 2012 uh, through 2014, I guess. So we're here, what, 12 years later. You're up in
Yeah.
the Northeast. We've got the biggest city in this world, not just this nation, but the biggest city of the world has just voted in somebody with that very same ideology
Mm.
in him, and Zomar Mendami. Would you have ever dreamed
You're talking about.
that this kind of ideology would have roosted in the world's biggest city? Because I guess the question beggars, do you think that all of the, and it's not just him, it's Alcied in Michigan, you've got this Dearborn, Michigan, there's just a hotbed of this
Mm.
jihadism here. It's within now our nation. Did you ever believe that this would happen over here in America? I mean, 12 years ago when you were sitting over there in that prison, did you ever think this was going to be
um,
shipped over here to our
well,
shores?
I have to. Okay, I'd say that before I went to Syria, I studied Arabic in Yemen. I studied the Quran in Yemen, and at the time, this was like in 2008. In 2004 and five in Yemen, I was coming across a lot of American men who had left America, and because they wanted to deepen their understanding of Islam. When they got over there, they grew out the beard, they studied the Quran, and they were much more extreme. Those young men, probably some of them are still there. than anything that we would find on the streets in America today. So if you're talking about American extremism, I mean, I'm familiar with the whole concept, and I personally believe, like, I mean, I know that in Jerusalem, for instance, today the faiths do get along. Have you been there? Have you been to
I was there
Jerusalem?
I just got my first trip in January. We went there for 10 days. Beautiful,
Okay.
beautiful
Now tell me
city.
about that experience for you. Well, did you find that the human beings of all the different faiths were getting along, or what?
I was never in fear at any time of anything, and I
Hmm.
felt like that there was a coexistence. I think there was a feeling. Look, the Israeli
Hmm.
state, for good reason, Theo, because we had October the 7th, that
Hmm.
brutalized the Jewish people from Gaza, and there was somewhat of a. I
Hmm.
mean, there was a lot of checkpoints. There was a lot of just safety
Hmm.
patrols, just for common sense purposes, because any nation that has
Right.
suffered what Israel did would be very cautious of people coming into their country, and I have no problem with that. In fact, I was glad they were doing that. But we went into
Right.
Bethlehem in the Palestinian areas, and there was,
Hmm.
there was a lot of people that were there that greeted us and talked to us, and we spoke to them, and there was not
And we're
any. I didn't feel like there was any animosity with the people. Now there were, I'm sure, certain groups
right.
that would have loved to have cut our head off in 3 seconds, but the people, I'm talking about the Palestinian people, for
Uh-huh.
the most part, have no issue with Israel, and Israel has no issue with them.
Right. Right. Or with you, for that matter. I mean, you're a Christian.
And I'm a
You're
Christian,
coming to
yeah,
visit there,
exactly.
and they really. I'm sure that they respected you and wished for you to see their good side when you were there. Yeah, I believe that that is a model in a way. Strangely enough, it is a model for our own coexistence here. Like the way that they have much deeper issues than we have among ourselves. They go back thousands of years, and we have we have issues, but I think we can resolve them. Um, yeah.
But do you think that the jihadi threat is real here in America? I do.
Mhm.
I believe that
In the
this,
U.S.
in the U.S., I believe that what you experienced is and look, and we may differ a little bit on this, and then this is no disrespect to the Muslim people. We love the Muslim
No, I
people
understand.
on this show. We love them.
Right. Right.
The religion that drives the ideology you just described, because you're absolutely right. These jihadists have is more dangerous than anything in the world, simply because their ideology is driven by a religious belief that anybody that does not submit to them, anybody that does not bow down to them, is worthy of death. And they show that in their actions. That's why Islam means
Well,
submission, and that is what they want. And I see these jihadists taking over the country, and they're putting on this good face. They're putting on the Ritz for us to tell us, well, we're not really we're not the evil jihadi over there in the Middle East. But I don't think there's a difference, and I'm concerned that we're embracing something that is going to be the destruction of us, because I don't have any problem with coexistence, but they're not wanting coexistence. If they're welcome to obey our laws, and they're welcome to obey America and
mm,
come and try to make America a better place, but that is not their goal, and
mm,
it's evident by what they're saying. And you're a testimony, because you're fortunate, my friend. You're blessed by
mm.
God to be alive tonight. I'm talking to you
I sure am.
because the Lord
Yes, sir.
saved your life,
No,
man.
I'm the luckiest.
You're absolutely.
I'm the luckiest
But do you
person,
feel that here in America?
survivor of that
Because,
war.
but what have you witnessed? What is your thoughts about what you're seeing happening right now
Okay,
over the last couple of years in America? I'm
sure.
curious.
Well, I do think that we have an epidemic of young men who are falling behind in school. Young men who spend much too much time on the internet, much too much time getting addicted to gambling and porn. And I feel that we are not sufficiently attentive to the needs of our young male population. They're not getting good jobs, and they're not getting good pay for the jobs that they have. You know that there was an anthem that it was like an internet anthem called uh, "Rich Men North of Richmond." Do you remember that song? Rich Men North of
Vaguely, I
Richmond.
do vaguely.
I really like that guy. I mean, that guy was fantastic. But one of the lines in his in his song is like, we work all day for bullshit pay, and and my dollar ain't shit, he says in his song. So I feel that we need to take, there are certain the ideologues that you talk about, the people who really do feel that we should be killed. There are such people, but they wouldn't have like material to work with. The threat is that they are capable of throwing a match into a very dry and tinder filled forest. And that forest is the young men to whom we have given insufficient education and insufficient career opportunity and basically insufficient financial opportunity. We need to invest more in our young men, and then we wouldn't worry about the crazy ideologue in the street who's calling out jihad, because nobody would be attracted to that nonsense. It's the fact that these Pied Pipers, they have people are listening to them, especially they listen a lot in Syria because those young men had nowhere else to go. They really didn't. It was like, you either you shut up or you can have a gun and start killing people.
Wow.
And a lot of those young men didn't want to shut up.
Yeah. Well,
it was the same for the American young men that joined.
I got you. Yeah, that's it's
Your
intriguing.
thoughts?
No, it's very intriguing that you saw so many American men over there, because I've heard that. I've heard that a lot of these, we are seeing a lot of Americans, boys and young men, go over there, get radicalized, come back over here and do great deeds of violence. But let me ask you just an opinion question. What is your opinion of Mandami in New York? What do you see in this? He's a 20-year-old. He almost fits the bill. He fits the bill of what you're describing, because he's Ugandan. I visited Uganda in 2014 or 2004 or whenever it was, 94. But what is your thoughts about him?
I respect your skepticism. You're feeling like this guy is not a good representative of our culture, our country. I don't live in New York. I feel that I hope for the best for him and for the entire city. And I think that if you went there and hung out with these people a little bit, I don't think you would be pissed off at him. I don't know. Is there a better alternative for New York?
Well, let me just say this. Again, this is where we may see things a little differently. I do not believe that the ideology that he's pushing of socialism and communism is good for any city, regardless of what city it is. We are Americans, and we believe in a capitalist-free society. And I understand the fact that there are some out there that feel like this system has left them behind, and they don't feel like they have been given enough. But I do not believe that is all on America. I think that we all have the opportunity. And Theo, in all fairness, there are some people that have come over to this country with no intention of assimilating, but they want the destruction of this country because that's their ideology, and that's what they want. And if you'll notice, in Europe right now, you look at London, you look at England, you look at Spain, you look at Europe, what's happening in Europe. And when we talked about coming on the show, it's a lot of this has been this illegal migration. We've allowed people into our country that we don't even vet, and we don't even know what kind of ideology they've got. And they get over here and they do all these dastardly deeds, and we shake our head at it, and then we wonder, well, they're not from here. They're not here. And again, we're not trying to close our borders to everybody. We want people that really want to be part of our country. Just like I think if you was to ask the people of England and the people of Spain and the people of France and all the nations of Europe that are experiencing this very same thing that we're going through right now in America, they would tell you, as long as they are here to assimilate and make our country better, we welcome them with open arms. But we don't welcome people that want to kill us. We don't want to welcome people that kill us, Theo.
Right. The assimilation issue is an interesting topic, because in France, everything that you point out is much worse in France. Everything that is currently like giving you feelings of being under assault or attack, or that you perhaps you're feeling that we have a kind of uncontrolled situation on the southern border, or even in our airports, or wherever the immigrants are coming in. You feel that things could easily get out of hand if they haven't already been out of hand. And my point is, however bad it seems to you now in the U.S., it's worse in France and
I'm sure.
Spain
I'm
and in
sure.
England. It really is, because they're closer to the continent of Africa and to the Middle East, and so that is the first place that the refugees come to. So when I'm there, yeah, I see the societies under a serious degree of stress, and yeah, I guess that our question is like, how do we cope with this? How do we respond? And how do we preserve our own culture? Or right. So listen, I think you're doing a beautiful thing in that you're up here talking about what you love about America every day on YouTube and on do you have a podcast or is it just
Yeah,
YouTube?
this is everything. Yeah, we're on several networks. We're on Rumble and Facebook and
See,
X
it's like
and
an empire.
yeah. Well, I wouldn't call it an empire.
It's a Christopher McDonald
Redneck
empire.
Southern rednecks don't build empires. We just run our mouth and pray to
Yeah,
God we don't offend nobody.
right on. You have the Southern
I put it
redneck
like this: if
Christopher
I ever get
McDonald empire.
Theo,
You're
I
the
put
king
it
of
like
all.
yeah, I put it like this: if I ever get kidnapped, the kidnappers are going to probably send a note back and say, "You're going to have to pay us money. We'll pay you money to take him back." So I'd run my mouth so much they would get rid of me in about 10 minutes. But no, listen, I understand where you're coming from with this, and I get the angst, but I want to make it clear that it's not even look. The Europeans have made a tremendous mistake in judgment thinking that open borders and not having some sense of order about their border and their structure of their nations would not lead to what's happening. And look, I'm not
Well,
blaming
can I
Muslims.
interrupt?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me interrupt for one quick sec, because I want to ask you, what would you do, for instance, you're in charge in the UK, and you see that every day there is a raft, recently, I think a raft, or yesterday, a raft of 200 migrants from unknown countries washed up on the southeastern coast of the UK, down by Folkestone and Dover.
Mhm.
What would you do there? Because those people are coming from France. So what is your response to the
Well,
arrival of
I
these
would
people?
send them back to
It's
their
not
original.
necessarily an
No,
open
I would
border.
send them back to their original countries. I would. I would tell them that
Put them on
we would. Well,
put
I'll
them
put it
on an
like this.
airplane.
No, I tell you what I would do. I would find out. I would vet
Hmm.
every one of them, find out where they're from,
Hmm.
and if they are willing
Hmm.
to assimilate, they would go through a process. Theo, we've got that process here in America. There are millions of regular migrants that have come over from countries. They went through the process of citizenship. They went through the legal procedures. They had
Hmm.
no problems. They didn't just show up on a boat. They came through the process. And those folks tonight are just as upset at what's happening on our border as we
Yeah, no,
citizens
they
are
are.
that are
That's a good
naturally
point.
born. And the fact of the matter is, I would approach this the same exact way in any nation, whether it be England, France, Spain,
Hmm.
or whatever.
Hmm.
If there's a process, and I'm sure even in crazy London and crazy
That
England and crazy France, they got a process of naturalization to where people that come in can assimilate as citizens.
well,
They're willing to do that. I'm willing to talk to
listen.
them. That's Chris. That's Chris's.
I mean that. No, that's very big-hearted of you. I think the issue for the citizens of the UK right now is that they're paying for the hotels of these migrants.
Correct,
As soon
they
as they
are.
come, they need a place to stay. You got wives, you got women and children, and they need to sleep somewhere. You don't want them sleeping in the street. So where are they going to sleep? That's the first issue that comes up. And then they all have medical needs. And then you have young kids among them. So do those kids go to school? Well, you don't want them to just sit there and do nothing. I mean, these are all issues, and their system is completely overwhelmed. You think our system is overwhelmed? Theirs is more overwhelmed because they're closer to the heart of the problem. We have a certain degree of insulation, at least from the Islamic world. Anyway, I think populations are more and more going to be on the move because the place where people want to escape from, their the climate change and political instability is driving those refugees and like financial nothing. Those countries they're all economic like basket cases. So the young people, in order to have like a modicum of hope for the future, they want out, and they're coming more and more and more. And it's just going to become a greater and bigger issue. And kindness alone, which you're discussing, isn't going to solve the problem. Like,
I'll agree, and I'm not saying it
we
will,
need
because I think that this has gone beyond the point of being solved. Because I think what's happened is that, and again, we're facing the same issue here, and this is why. Look, I'm all with President Trump. I am all in on what he's trying to do, because the way I look at it is this: you cannot fix a problem until you get. Look, and again, this is where we may disagree a little bit. I believe that lawlessness in any nation will destroy a country quicker than anything in this universe, and this is what I feel. And I look at, and I know the humanitarian side. I'm not trying to be a cold-hearted, and say we don't consider that. But I will tell you, I'm going to ask you a question. What percentage of those people coming from the Middle East and coming from these war-torn countries do you think? And again, this is an opinion question, and I don't think either one of us can answer this question, because again, we can only base this what they tell the people when they come over, because we don't know what's in this thing right here called the heart. But how many do you think that really truly come over to any country that comes here illegally that wants to assimilate and do the right thing instead of coming here with malintent? Because they are bringing their theology and ideology with them into these countries. And let me just add to this real quick, and I'll give it to you. This is how how I view it. We're Americans here. Yeah. We've been Americans since 1776. We just celebrated 250 years. There's nowhere in the universe that, and I think we're seeing what's happened to Europe, because they've done just this. They've allowed the immigrant to come in, and the immigrant changed the country. That's not what the purpose of immigration is. When you immigrate into a country, like if I was to go, let's just say if I got up and said, I'm gonna stop being American and I'm gonna go move to any country. I'll just name Thailand or whatever other nation. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over there. I'm not going to change Thailand. I'm not going to change that culture. I'm going to have to assimilate into their culture. Chris is going to have to change. Yeah. And I see that these illegals, or whatever you want to call them, immigrants or whatever, because there's a difference to me between the migrant that's coming here legally and the migrant that's not. There's a big difference to me, a huge difference. But if they're coming over here to adopt and assimilate into our culture, we welcome them with open arms. But Theo, most of them are not. Most of them are saying, you Americans, and they said they've done it to England, they've done it to France, they've done it to Spain. They've said, you all have got to now adopt to our culture, which is Islam, and it's jihadism, and communism, and socialism, because they're bringing these things with them. And I know, again, that may be a little difference than the way you see it, but that's how we see it here. And again, I think this is the friction that is going on in these nations, but it is tearing the fiber. It's tearing these nations to the fiber. Buddy, you've seen this in your travels. You're a journalist. You've seen this over there firsthand, man. And this, because their ideology does not mesh with the Republic of America. It just don't. And look, we are a Christian nation. Regardless of what anybody says, we are a Judeo-Christian nation that believes in God. We believe in the Bible. We believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. We believe in faith. And it doesn't mean that we don't respect other religions. There's not one word out of my mouth on this show. I respect all people, their right to worship whoever they want to. But when they start imposing their religion on me and tell me that you have to assimilate to us, and they're not even from here, then this old redneck Southerner, that's when Chris will speak out and say, no, that ain't going to happen. Now, that may be a little harsh, but that's the McDonald doctrine, McDonald theology.
No. Listen, I think you and 300 million Americans agree with you on that. Nobody, it's your own country, and you should not be told how to behave within your own country, provided you're obeying the laws of our founding fathers, which you do, I'm sure.
We try to.
About the assimilation thing is, a young man who is coming from a disadvantaged country, beneath somewhere in the southern hemisphere, often doesn't have the educational or the intellectual capacity to perform to fully integrate himself into our culture. He can't go to the schools. He doesn't have enough English, and he doesn't understand the laws. They
I'm with you.
often
I'll agree.
come with good intentions, and then they abandon them in 10 minutes because it's too hard. And then they're like, I'm going to stick with my own community because at least I can talk to them.
Yeah, that's
I
a
mean,
good point.
listen,
No,
all
I'm
these
not.
young
That's a
men,
good point.
they see America on TV, they see our wealth, and they see our happiness, and they often watch sitcoms full of beautiful women, and they go, that's what I want for myself. And they get here, and 10 minutes after their arrival, they discover they can't have it. They can't acquire the education, they don't have the money, and furthermore, they're angry because there are a lot of people that are succeeding and they're not succeeding. And, the problems begin once their dream of perfect assimilation shatters into a million pieces, which it does within the first 24 hours of their arrival. So then they go to plan B, and what is plan B? Well, some people can manage to get to a university and learn the language, but those are the lucky ones. The unlucky ones, they just kind of shift for themselves. And I'm sure, obviously that's where the trouble begins.
I understand that, buddy. Well, listen, I don't think we're far off, and I understand that, and I have a lot of sympathy for that. Yeah, that scenario you just said makes a lot of sense. It does. And plan B, sadly for some, plan C then turns into violence, and they turn into trying to, do the things they tried to do to Theo Padnos 12 years ago, and it creates this bubble of whatever. Go ahead.
I'll give you a good example of how that happened. The pilots of the 9/11 attacks were all immigrants to Germany. That attack, it fulminated and it kind of hatched inside Hamburg in Germany.
Wow.
I think all four pilots had studied in Hamburg for upwards of 5 years. And they had integrated themselves well enough into German society so that they could speak perfect German. And actually, Mohammed Atta, who was probably the lead pilot, he had written a master's degree thesis in German about urban planning. And what happened to him during his time in Germany, at first, he so loved Germany that he was actually teaching German to other immigrants. He had that well integrated himself. But over time, he decided, you know what? These Germans are never going to allow me to integrate. And I hate them. And I'm really angry at them. And so, his story is a story of immigration, like the dreams shattering and then curdling and getting worse and worse and worse. And finally, he decided he hated not just the Germans, but all of us. And he decided that we in America were the
great Satan.
We're like the chief leaders of all the evil everywhere. And so he had to kill us.
Wow.
There's many ways that these projects of assimilation can go awry. But I think his initially started with some good intentions. Like learning German, believe me, is not so easy. And he learned it well enough so that he could teach everybody else, all the other Arabs, how to speak German.
That's interesting. You mentioned the age. I want to talk to you about that. We got about 10 minutes here. You mentioned the age of your captors. Is it fair to say that this ideology is, and I don't think this is a softball toss because I probably know the answer to this already, but it is fair that they are training these kids from kindergarten up to believe this mindset against America. Is that a fair statement?
Well, they would say the moment the child comes out of the womb, that's when they begin whispering to him in his ear. And they're the kids who are maybe 6 or 8, they will tell you, yes, I got this from the moment I came into this world, and I got nothing else. And they're proud of that. They don't want to be educated in a secular sense. They don't want to learn about, history or biology or math or anything like this. They just want Allahu Akbar, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. They feel that makes them more connected to God. So it doesn't. It's before 2 and 3. It's when they are infants.
Wow. And let me ask you this: how complicit is the media? I know you're a journalist, but how complicit is the media in making these false? And I hate to use. What's the word I'm looking for? You described how the mindset of the young man is when he comes to America. How much of that is in his does he find that out from his parents, and compared to what he's seeing on, is a lot of this media perspective, is a lot of this the media that's portraying this, or the way that they're portraying America overseas, how we're being portrayed over there in the foreign media?
I'm not sure I understand your question. Are you wondering, like, how does a young man in an Arab country see America?
Yes. You answer my, that's the question I wanted to ask.
All right. They see the first thing that they see is girlfriends, which they cannot have in an Arab country.
Wow.
A young man, he's 17, he goes, I'm going there because I want a beautiful young blonde woman. That's the chief motivation of 90% of them. They can't have that. It's just forbidden. And they feel that those girls are to be had for the taking. And when they get here, they discover, no, that's not the case. And they have no means of like communicating to these women, or no, it's a relatively sex segregated society in Arab countries. Like the men know how to talk to their sisters, but they've never talked to like a single woman. And most of the marriages are arranged. So the whole dynamic of like, how do you get a woman interested in you? The terrorists used to ask me that, like, if I were to go to America, how do I get the girls to talk to me? Or they would talk to girls on Instagram.
That's crazy.
They'd be like, what should I say to her? And they had no idea.
That's unbelievable.
So your question is like, what does the young Muslim man think of America? He thinks of sex.
Well, let me ask you this.
That's the place I can go for sex.
Let me change the question and change the gender. What does a Muslim woman think of America? Because, Theo, one thing that is not talked about a lot in the media, and they hide it, is the absolute and atrocious treatment of women under Islam. And these Islamic jihadi regimes, what they do to women is absolutely abhorrent, criminal, demonic, and satanic. Because the woman, like you said, the young men are not allowed to have women, and they have to cover themselves. And and I'm seeing more and more of this in America. The hijabs and people covering themselves. And again, this is no reflection against, I'm not saying this in disrespect to the religion. I know all people have their beliefs, but there is a treatment of women that is subpar. And in Christianity, both men and women are treated equally. We don't disrespect the woman in Christianity. We as far as God's concerned, we're all one in Him. We're all His creation, but especially in Christianity, we're all one in Christ. But the man and the woman is considered, even though the man she's the weaker vessel, the man is not to tyrant over her. We don't teach that in our faith. We don't teach the man to beat the woman and rape the woman and torture the woman. And if she don't cook a ham sandwich, you'll go in there and just slap her around and beat the you-know-what out of her. We don't do that. But in all fairness, that's what Islam teaches. And I'm curious, from the same perspective, when they look at us, when the Muslim women in the Middle East look at America, what do they think? Can you speak to that?
They think education. They think education and healthcare, just like a lot of normal American women do too. But yeah, they think it's a future for their families, is what they think. They dream of a successful and prosperous family, a good place to raise the kids. And you can't raise a kid if bombs are falling on your head, or if the government's coming arresting your husband every 20 minutes.
Folks, you're watching.
They think of. Go ahead. Well, they think prosperity, and they think that Western men are going to be less controlling, which is probably true.
But we are. I mean, they're not going to find the same, at least as long as we're not under jihadi control. Now, I'm going to ask you a wild question. How would you view America? What will America look like if in the event, because I know a lot of these young kids, a lot of this energy, in this Democrat Socialist Party, the socialists that are communists, the jihadis that are taking form of government, because there's been a lot of infiltration into our government. But what does America look like 10 years from now if we wind up with somebody like Al-Sayed with his ideology in Michigan in the White House? How would America fundamentally change? And after this, let me say this to my audience first. Folks, if you've got a question, we got about 10 minutes for Theo. If you got a question about anything, please put it in the chat, and I'll ask him, because we got about 10 minutes. But I'm curious about that question.
I want to hear from your audience.
Yeah, we're going to let them speak. We're going to let them
I love hearing from you.
Yeah.
But your audience, I would love to hear from too. I believe that it's an extraordinarily unlikely scenario. It seems to me that I'm amazed he's gotten as far as he did, Al-Sayed in Michigan. I mean, I think there's a severe backlash against the current government. I think people are angry at Donald Trump. I'm sure some of your listeners, I bet they're angry because of the Iran thing. Is that not the case? You tell me.
No, we're not. No, most of my audience is not. Most of my audience, we are concerned about the Iranian situation, but Theo, we recognize the danger that Iran poses to this nation's security and to Israel's security. And most of my audience is very conservative, and most of my audience is not angry with Donald Trump. Most of my audience see this for what it is. He's not attacking the Iranian people. He's trying to help the Iranian people get free. This regime, I was a sophomore in high school the day those hostages were taken in Iran, or released from Iran, I should say. I witnessed our nation for 47 years. Nobody has dealt with this tyrannical regime. And they have allowed Iran, they have got the blood of multiple millions of people on their hands through their proxies of Hamas, the Houthis, all of the terrorist groups that they have financed with jihad against Israel, jihad against America. Look, even this recent Mecca alliance that has just formed, Iran is applauding it. And their statement yesterday was, well, we're grateful that it's going to be an American-free Middle East. Well, I have no problem with the Middle East being America-free, but what I do have a problem with is them wanting to destroy our greatest ally, Israel, and wipe them off the map. We're not going to let that happen. And I think most people, we understand the danger. We may not agree with the logistics sometimes of what's going on, like the overall aspect, because every war, every conflict is going to have mistakes made, and there's going to be things done. But I think overall, at least I can tell you this audience, I would say 99-1, I don't think we're upset with what's going on. I think we're concerned about the if this thing keeps drawing out, the long-term ramifications for our country. But I see the danger, and I'm glad Trump's addressing it. He's the only president that has. But to your point, I don't doubt that younger generation who's supporting the Al-Sayeds and supporting the AOCs and supporting the Rashida Tlaibs and supporting that element of this country, that they are not, and it goes back to perception and education. They don't understand the history of the Middle East. You have been in the history. Folks, buddy, you don't just know about the history. You've lived the history of the Middle East. You sat in a cell for 2 years understanding the history of the Middle East, man.
So let me understand what you're saying, though. Your view is that the supporters of Al-Sayed and Rashida Tlaib and so forth are energized and angry at the White House at the moment, and that they're a danger to peace and stability for our future.
I believe their ideologies. I'm not speaking to them about as a person. I'm talking about what they believe. Rashida Tlaib is the most rabid anti-Semitic voice in that Congress, among many, Ilhan Omar. And look at what they've done. They've come in,
Omar,
and Omar and all of them. I believe that they do not hold, look, they feel, it's their own words, not mine. I'm not putting words in their mouth. They are out there every single day trashing our government, trashing the freedoms that we've got, trashing the rich, trashing the prosperity of this country. They're doing that. I'm not doing that. And we have, look, they are duly elected, that, and these cities, and again, it goes back, people are free to vote for who they want to. And we're running out of time. We may have to pick this up on part 2. But I believe their ideology is a direct threat to our democracy and freedom. I do. I do. And I think a lot of people that if you were to ask on the street of America, and again, I think a lot of it's the region. You're in the Northeast, and I've been to the Northeast.
Right.
The thinking up there's a little different than it is down here down south. And we're coming again, yeah. But it's a lot different, and it depends on where you're at in the country. Look, Rashida Tlaib's theology, she cannot bring that down south and play that down here. It's not going to work. Now, up in Michigan, in Dearborn, where you've got a great deal of Muslims that live, and you've got a great deal of people that support this Islamic theology, it's cotton candy to them. They hear it. And I'm with you. I'm surprised. I was shocked the other night when Saeed won. I did. And I tell you what else, I was shocked. And it's to your neighbor to the north of Maine, when Plattner won 70-30, man. I mean, it wasn't like the guy hid what he believed. And I mean, I'm like, I can't believe Maine is that nutty. On the Democrat side, at least.
Can I ask you? You're in Florida at the moment, right?
I'm in Alabama. I'm in South Alabama, where I'm at right now.
Oh,
But I'm in North Florida.
You're moving to Florida?
No, I'm moving from Tennessee. I've been in Tennessee.
What do you think about Fishback? Do you know the gubernatorial candidate in Florida, Fishback?
I've not heard of them, no.
Okay, all right, never mind then. Yeah, he's a conservative candidate who's running, but he feels that he's with you on all the stuff you say about Islam, but he feels we're giving too much money away to the government of Israel. Too much of our blood and treasure, basically.
I vehemently disagree. I vehemently disagree with that.
Yeah.
I disagree with that. And I'll tell you why. And again, there's a lot of spiritual reasons why I disagree with that. But I'm just going to speak now as an American citizen. I'm going to speak as somebody, if Chris was in, I do not believe that there is any better friend to America in the Middle East than the nation of Israel. I know Israel's not perfect. They've got their problems in the government. They got their problems in the government. They got their problems in the government just like we do. But there is not going to be a nation we're going to find on this planet that will stand with America whenever we need. We don't stand with her all the time like we should, but she stands with us. She tries to. But Theo, even again with Israel and America, you got two separate nations who've got their own agenda. They've got their own interests. And sometimes those interests are not going to just mesh like cotton candy. It's just life. No more than America's interests would mesh with Canada, or America's interests would mesh with any nation on this earth. And you know,
right. Of course.
To Trump's credit, he said this a few years ago. He said, look, if a president of another nation doesn't want his nation to serve his interest at the best nation, that president's not too good a president. And he was totally right. Every nation needs to want to have the best for their people. And that's the beautiful part of our world. We've got a cultures that are so different, and we've got to come to learn to live together. We just do, and we don't understand that. And I think that, and I'll be the first to tell you about our own nation. We've got a wonderful, beautiful nation. Me and you are American citizens, my friend. We got a beautiful nation. We just celebrated 250 years. It's not perfect, but I wouldn't want to live anywhere else in this world. I can tell you what, I wouldn't want to live in Syria. I wouldn't want to go where Theo Padnos got rescued from and pitch a tent there and say, hey, honey, we're going to go live in Damascus for about 2 years. I don't think my honey would like that too much, Theo. I wouldn't like that. I'm just saying, man, because I wouldn't want to live over there.
I want you to keep me up to date on your trip to New Hampshire, because I would like to see you in action before your audiences that you're going to be preaching to, right?
Yes, we're going to be talking to them. Listen, a couple of questions, let's just say, let's see here. Carol Smith asked you the question: do you think that the reason that Mandami won up in New York is that people just didn't vote, or do you think that this was the feeling of New York City that they wanted to go in this direction with his ideology? Yeah. That's an excellent question.
No, it's the feeling. It's the feeling.
You think it's the feeling? So it wasn't just the votes. It wasn't the votes.
Yeah. No. He's got the support of the young people. And there are a lot of young people in New York City. You get on the subway in New York City, it's like 90% of them are under 25.
Wow.
And all those young people feel that he's going to upset the apple cart, and he's going to not persecute, but prosecute the rich people. There's a huge economic inequality going on in New York City. I don't know if you've been there lately, but
I have.
It's the very rich and everybody else. And the young people, they want a stake in the future. They feel he's going to give it to them. I think they voted for him for that reason.
That's Robin Hood,
for
isn't
economic
it? Take from the rich and give to the poor. That's the Robin Hood mentality.
To address the affordability crisis.
Yeah. Well, I got the solution.
Something like that. Yeah, he does promise that. It's like Robin Hood.
I've got the solution, Padnos. It just came to me. Padnos 2028. All right? Padnos.
Okay.
28. You can be my foreign advisor about the Middle East. You can advise me on Middle Eastern affairs. and keep me from sticking my
I'll do
foot
that.
in my mouth
I wanna
every
be
day
your-
at my press conference because I would offend half the world. I would get up there and light a fire to this stuff. I'm telling you, man. We Southerners,
I
we
want to be
just
your
are.
Secretary of State for Middle East Affairs.
Middle East
Please.
affairs. Buddy, listen,
Keep me in mind when you become.
listen, it's gone by so quick, and I want to thank you for being with me tonight. I do appreciate it, and I do encourage people to visit your website. You got several books out. Have you wrote those books since we've seen each other? I
I've
know
got some books,
Blindfold. Blindfold is one. And what's some other books that you've written?
Forget about all that. I think they should tune into Christopher McDonald YouTube every night and stay tuned with that. It's good.
Okay.
You're keeping it real.
I try to
You
keep
keep
it
it
real,
real,
man.
I
Well,
appreciate
listen, I appreciate you, and listen, we're gonna have you back on soon. Did you enjoy yourself here tonight? I hope we.
I want you to keep me up to date about November in New Hampshire.
I will. I'm coming to New Hampshire, and listen, I want to tell you, I appreciate the discussion tonight. It was a healthy discussion, and that's what we're all about here. I deeply appreciate your insight, and I'm glad, and I say this very sincerely. I'm grateful that the Lord saw fit to save your life back in 2014 from this virus.
thank
Is
you.
your mom still living, by the way?
too.
That beautiful lady that we saw? Is she
She's still alive, yes.
Tell her,
Yes.
tell her a redneck Southerner, Chris
will do
McDonald,
that.
said hello, and she's got my blessings, and we're praying for
do
you
that.
both. Okay, bless you, friend.
She'll be delighted to hear that.
God bless you,
Nice to
friend.
chat with you.
We're
Be in
praying for
touch.
you guys, and God bless you,
Good to see
Theo.
you.
Appreciate your insight tonight. Good night.
God bless you.
God bless you.
All right, bye.
Theo Padnos, everybody, put some fire in that house. We're grateful for him, and we appreciate it. Oh. That's some good stuff there. Everybody enjoy that. Put some fire in that house if you did. And I know that there's some things that Theo said. I can almost feel it out there. Y'all didn't agree with it. That's okay. Theo, I tell you what, folks, anybody's been 2 years held captive by Al-Qaeda, and if you got to watch this, there's an Apple series, and I've seen it, and it's gut-wrenching what he went through for 2 years. And he's a journalist. He is a journalist. He's in the northeast part of the country. And, you know, he may not share our Christian faith as we believers do, but we're working on him. We're working on it. And you need to pray for him. He's a good man. He's a good man. He survived something that most of us wouldn't have survived. And I don't think there's any of us that if we would have went through what he's gone through, we'd come out of this not warped. I mean, just absolutely crazy. There were some things I disagreed with him on. I'll be the first to tell you, not in a mean-spirited way. I just didn't see it that way. But I do get his point that the perception, and you know, he was telling us the truth, folks. I think we learned tonight what they see us as. If we can ever understand that, I don't think we'll ever understand it, how they perceive us over here, maybe we can understand why they are coming over here in scores and grows. But I will say this, and I stand on my ground on this. This country is not going to go Muslim. I'm just saying. If we have anything to do with it, and I'm speaking to church, I'm speaking to the body of Christ tonight. Now, we're a Christian nation, and it's up to us to make sure it stays that way. It doesn't mean to the Muslim brethren that listening to me tonight, it does not mean that we hate any religion, because we do not. They hate us, but we don't hate them. We have nothing but love in our heart for them. I have nothing but love. Do I want my children to grow up in a Sharia law, Islamic society? No. No. And if I have anything to do with it, they're not going to. But we need to be understanding of one thing tonight, and I hope you caught what he said at the end. And Carol, your question was excellent. It wasn't just about the votes. I think we all thought that. I did. I said, well, nobody went out and voted. It's the attitude that is taking over this country, folks. These young people are being radicalized by the day, by the minute, because they feel disenfranchised. And I'm not saying that they have a right to feel that way. To me, it's rebellion. To me, it's nothing but rebellion against authority. But at least we get it. And Magdalene Rose is a good barometer. She's right here every night when she talks, and she's saying the same thing. I know some of us receive that from her and some of us don't, and it's okay. I'm all good with Magdalene. I'm all good with Theo. I may not see things eye to eye with how he views it, but I have not. I'll put it like this, folks. I've never been in a torture chamber for 2 years with guns to my head every night. And if you've seen that video, we're going to post that video in the Telegram room, by the way, that 2-minute intro. And I would encourage you to get the movie. You can rent it for $2. It's real cheap. And I would encourage you to watch it. And, he said that they would come into his cell at night and put the rope around him and fake his hanging. He would think that this is it. And then they would act like they're going to hang him. They'd kick the chair out and then put the chair back underneath him real quick. They would make him sleep. He said he literally had to sleep horizontal. The cell was so small he couldn't even sleep, except he slept horizontal on the floor. No blankets, nothing. Every night. Think about that for 2 years. Think about the Assad government turning him back over, thinking he was CIA when he was nothing but a journalist, turning him back over to his captors. I mean, this is what happened to him. And I was reading one of the reviews of the book and that he wrote blindfolded. Imagine being blindfolded every night. So none of us have experienced that. I don't think anybody out there in our audience has. If you have, I'd like to talk to you. But anyway, it's some stuff that we need to chew on. I'll put it like this. But I'm going to say this about the Muslim Jihadi movement. If they think for a second, that they're going to come and change America for their sake, they're wrong. Because that's not how this works. That's not how this works. And I will stay to that ground. Folks, it's what's destroyed England. It's what's destroyed France. It's what's destroyed Spain. It's what's destroyed all these nations that have allowed this illegal immigration to come in. These illegals coming from our southern border. Folks, you think about the Central American countries and Mexico. They've come over here. What have they tried to do? They've tried to bring their crime and their violence. And I know people get all upset about that and say, well, that's just not Christian and that's not compassionate to say that they're coming over here and the worst of the worst is coming over here. Well, what do you want me to say? That Mr. Rogers' neighborhood's coming over here? That Barney's coming over here? That we've got Sesame Street on the southern border? That the pedophiles and the traffickers are not bad people? What do you want me to say? No, they're bad. They're sinful. They're wicked. They're demonic. And these things have been allowed to flow over our border. What do we expect is going to happen if we don't stop it? And Marine Girl, I'm with you. I don't think any of us are mad about Iran. I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad. And I don't care. I don't care if the kids are mad about it. I don't care if they're mad or not mad. We're dealing with an Islamic threat to the world. And that's part of the problem. You got Christians that are mad with it. You've got Christians that are out there posting all sorts of junk and crap about Iran, that don't have a brain, that think that Trump's doing something evil because he's going after this regime. Neighbor, this regime has killed multiple millions of people through its proxies. So what are we supposed to say? That we're going to shake hands with them and keep doing this dance with them for another 40 years? I'm going to tell you this, folks. When Trump's gone, there's nobody behind him that's going to have the gumption and the gall and the courage to do what he's doing over there. Now, I don't agree with this wishy-washy, and I'm with you, Peter. You said something a while ago that a lot of us believe he's not doing enough. I'm with that thinking. Trump's not doing enough. Trump needs to finish this. And I think that's the only anxiety I have about it is I don't want him letting these people off the hook. There needs to be regime change. Even this week, after he gave them a break, after he paused the bombing, after he gave them grace for the third time, what are they doing? They're now putting more demands and new demands and making America tell America, well, you're going to have to pay us to fix our country for your bombing. You go pound sand, brother. It's good that I'm not president. It is very good that I'm not president. Because Chris would light it up. There wouldn't be no negotiation. This would have been done. This had already been finished. And folks, listen, I know that we don't want to hear that. I know that we just, it makes us squeamish, and we're timid, and we just don't want to see that, and we got to get along with everybody. Folks, the reality of it is not everybody wants to get along with us. I don't see America bombing Israel tonight. I don't see America bombing Jordan. I don't see America bombing any of those nations in the Middle East that are not trying to usurp our authority and not usurp our role. And any nation in Europe that wants to work with us, we're working with them. I think Trump sometimes trusts these nations a little bit more than he should, but that's being a president, and that's just part of it. And folks, no president. And I'm going to be down here in a minute because we got another show coming up. But listen, no president is going to get everything right. This Middle East situation is so complicated. And that's why I brought Theo back on tonight, because Theo's not been with us for a few years. And again, I may not, as I was listening to him, there's some things that me and him just ain't going to see the same. And I get it. But he's talking from a journalist perspective. He's talking from somebody that's been over there. And he's probably talking more from a secular view than a spiritual view. I see things spiritually. And it's not that that's a knock at Theo. Theo's a great man. He's a good man. And he's a good friend of the show. He loves the show. And I pray for him. I pray for his mom. His mom's precious. If you watch the video, she's precious. She was worried, as any mother would have been, about her son. I mean, seriously, she was heartbroken when she heard the news that he got captured, and probably thought she'd never see her son again. That, too, none of us have. I can't imagine if that had been Caleb or one of my boys, or any of you, if that had been your son. But this is a complicated issue in the Middle East. America has never fared well when we've gotten ourselves bogged down in it. We don't have to get bogged down in Iran. We can deal with this. Get it done. Get out. Put a new regime in. And just put Iran on notice. As long as you're not trying to destroy us and destroy Israel, we can help you and be your friend. You keep fomenting terror. You keep exporting terror. You keep bombing Israel. You keep sending Hamas into Gaza. You keep fomenting terror through the Houthis in Lebanon and Hezbollah and all these other terrorist groups. We're not your friend. We're your enemy. We do the same to Mexico. We tell Mexico, you get your border straightened out, you close this border, you stop sending us the pedophiles and the rapists and the murderers and everything over here to destroy our country. They're not changing America and our laws. And so, folks, this is what I'm going to say to you tonight. This is what makes these elections so scary right now. The country is electing people with the same ideology that kept Theo Padnos in captivity for 2 years and would have cut his head off in 2 seconds, and your head. I read something today on X, and I think it was Gina Milan, that said, they say that I've got Islamophobia, but what I have is I don't want my country under Sharia law phobia. And I posted underneath that, and also, I don't want my head cut off phobia. Because I don't want my kids growing up in Sharia law, and neither do you. And none of us do tonight. None of us do tonight. All righty. Oh! I'll say amen for that. I'll amen myself on that. Anyway, any other comments real quick? Bear, I'm saying come on myself. I'll amen say come on myself. Sandy, the younger generation, and that's what Theo was really saying, they do feel like they're entitled to everything without having to work or earn it themselves. But Sandy, that's again what he was saying, and I'm with you. I'll agree with you 100%. But Theo saw that firsthand in the Middle East. These young men. And what was blowing my mind, and it blew my mind the first time I ever talked to him, was the number of American men that are going over to the Middle East because they're disenchanted with their own country, this entitled generation, and then they're finding their footing. They're finding a religion that welcomes them with open arms and gives them a purpose and gives them something. And I might as well say this tonight, and this is going to sting a little bit. What does that say about the American church? Because you know who should be giving them that purpose? You know who should be out there offering them this hope? Folks, you see that picture behind me right there, that beautiful picture I got? I saw that picture. I fell in love with that picture. The Lord with the American flag draped upon him, praying for our country. He's praying for the whole world, really. It's not just America that he's praying for. He's praying for all nations. He's praying for Israel. He's interceding for the whole world tonight. He doesn't have a favorite nation, but God established this nation for a specific purpose, a specific reason. We are to be a light. We were to be a light on a hill. We were to be the light to the world. The gospel, just like Israel was supposed to be a light to the heathen about God. What does that say about us tonight? That our light has become so dim that we are not offering anything in the church that counteracts what Islam is offering these young men. That's more troubling to me than anything I heard come out of Theo Padnos' mouth tonight. Me and Theo I think he gets it. We may see things from a different perspective on how to fix it, but he gets it. He's understanding it. He's lived it. He's lived it. He's lucky to be alive. I hate to use the word lucky. I wouldn't even use the word lucky. He's blessed. I told him that before the show came on. I said, the Lord saved your life. Witnessing to him. I said, the Lord saved your life. And the Lord did. The Lord's trying to save our country, but he's got to have his people on board with what he's doing. And to be a voice. To call this out for what it is. And to speak Jesus. And to speak the gospel to the people. And to tell man that man can be saved. And man can find hope in one place, that his fulfillment is not in Islam, but his fulfillment is in Christ. That's the failure of the church in this country. So we have ourselves to look into the mirror about that. I'll email that. I'll email myself on that one. Anyway. Can I get some fire in that house on that? Get some fire in that house on that. And so forth. Good to see Joan. Joan, it was a very spirited conversation, wasn't it? We have those from time to time. We have those from time to time. I don't know if I'm not sure Theo can handle this redneck southerner. He's fun. He's a good man. I appreciate him being with us. Y'all enjoy him tonight. Look, I encourage you to look at his website and see his testimony. I do encourage you to see that video. It's called Theo Lived. Theo lived. And as he told you, there were several others that they executed and kept him alive for whatever reason. And we just need to pray, folks, that God moves in all these situations tonight. I really believe that. All righty. Any other questions real quick? And any other questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? Susan, it is a miracle that Theo came home from all of that horror and evil. Without a doubt. It is a tremendous miracle. And anyway, Peter, your comment about this looking like the 60s, the hippies endorsing communists, Vietnam, Mao, Hanoi Jane, Eastern religion and philosophies. Peter, it is the 60s, but it's on a different level, my friend. This is a little different. I'm with you. I was born in the 60s, so I really didn't understand it till the 70s, because it was going on in the 70s when I was 10 years old. And then the 80s and the 90s and the 20s and the 2010s and now in the 2020s. I think this is a lot deeper and more destructive than anything that happened in the 60s. The seeds of this were planted then. I'm with you on that. And it does feel like it. I will tell you, it does feel like it. It's nothing but rebellion. It is rebellion against God. It's rebellion against authority. And something we got to pray about and stand up to. All righty, listen, we're not done tonight. We're gonna have another spirited conversation tonight. Do you understand? I don't know if y'all get what's going on tomorrow on the 12th of August. If you don't believe tomorrow, folks, is going to be a wild day in the heavens, we're going to talk about it tonight. We have got a solar eclipse. It's going to go across most of Iceland, Greenland, parts of Europe. Northern Spain is going to go 100% dark tomorrow. 100% dark, the northern part of Spain. We have got a meteor shower tomorrow night after midnight, around midnight Eastern. And there's going to be a new moon tomorrow night. By the way, the new moon means it's dark. The world is dark. All of this is prophetic. And you'll be able to see the meteor shower tomorrow night better than if we'd had a full moon. And then, on top of everything else, I think right after midnight, either tonight or right before dawn in the morning, if you get up before the sun comes up, or right at the sun, and look to the eastern sky, there are going to be 6 planets that are going to align themselves, and that's not happened in several decades. And then you throw in the volcanoes that are going off, the earthquakes that are going off, the tornadoes in the Midwest, summertime. Michelle Rayburn today, God bless her heart, Bedar, Ohio is getting raked over the coals today. She said they've had non-stop 2-day storms, tornado warnings, tornadoes, damage, all sorts of things going on up there in Ohio. Our prayers for you folks in Ohio and Michigan, to be frank with you. This earth is shaking. But Jesus said in the last days, there would be signs in the heavens, and the earth would be a shaking and trembling. The seas are warring and raging, and men's hearts failing them for fear. It's happening. Those are the signs that we're getting close to his coming. And we're going to have, it's a prophetic day tomorrow. 12 is the number of God's government. I got some thoughts about all this tonight. I shared some with the late night show last night. I'll share it with you more tonight. Be with us a bit later. We got election results coming out of Wisconsin here in a few minutes. And we're going to talk with Leslie Millway. We may get James on tonight, but he'll be on this week. Magdalene will probably be on later this week. But join us later tonight. We got to talk about all this. And by the way, to the people of Massachusetts, you have got to have one of the most wicked governors in this country. And that's saying a lot. That is saying a lot, because there's a lot of wicked, evil governors over some states, including Gavin Newsom and Spanberger and the nut in New Jersey and the nut in New York. She signed a law today that basically will allow Massachusetts citizens to abort a baby up to birth with no restraint. 34 weeks. 34 weeks, basically. And let's see here. Do I have that picture? I hope it downloaded to my phone. I probably it didn't. And it didn't. And but anyway, we will talk about this tonight. At 34 weeks, folks, to see a baby at 34 weeks, and for Massachusetts to say that you can kill that baby and do it legally, judgment is coming to that state. Judgment is coming to that state if that's not repented of. And judgment is coming to that governor if that's not changed. And you can take that for what it's worth tonight. And you folks in Massachusetts, we love you. You need to be praying for your state. Because you basically just supported baby killing. You just supported baby killing. Yes, Susan, the video Theo Lived is on YouTube. It's on Apple TV as well. And so forth. God bless you. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. And we hope that you enjoyed the conversation tonight. And I encourage you to watch the video, folks, of Theo. He will, it's wild what happened to him. It's wild what happened to him. Okay, listen, I'm done. I'm going to get some supper. I'll be back with you later tonight. Talk about the election and some other things with you tonight. And I tell you what, it's going to be a good night on the McFiles. Another good Tuesday night. If you enjoyed the show, put some fire in that house. Good to see everybody. Good to see Carol Smith in the house. Carol, I hope everything went well today with your doctor's appointments, dear, you and Ken. God bless y'all. We're praying for you. Have a good night, everybody. We'll be back here, and see you later now.